Aoife Wilson, you've been playing Inside, which is Playdead's new game, makers of Limbo. How is it?
Yes, I have. I've actually finished it, but I was playing it on preview code, so I'm not actually sure how much that's going to change. Probably
Right.
not very much, but yeah, it's if you like obviously, so as you say, it's from the creators of Limbo. It's very, very similar. I mean, if you walked in to someone playing this and you've played Limbo before, you'd be like, "Oh, so it's I think they call it a 2.5 platformer, as in like it's a 2D platformer in a 3D environment.
Yeah.
So you can only move left to right. Like, it's beautiful. It's not like Limbo in that it's not monochrome, but it may as well be. Like, it's there are splashes of a very muted color here and there. So it's got, because it's a bit of a downer, basically. Like, it's a game, if you've seen any of the trailers, you play as a little boy and you're on the run from a kind of, I mean, you get a very Nazi-esque vibe from it, I think.
Yeah.
In the beginning. So I mean, that's really all you know. You're kind of running from sort of horrible soldiers and dogs and all the rest of it, and it's quite, it's very affecting in that, like, obviously you're a child, and all this horrible stuff is happening, and it kind of like you get a little bit of a downer about it after a while, because it's so relentless in like horrible things. But then again, it's there are, because I don't want to spoil it, there are certain things that happen throughout the story that obviously pique your interest. You're like, what's going on here? Why are these guys here? What are they doing?
Sure.
You get hints here and there, and although I'm not going to say it's totally resolved by the end of the game, it kind of ends up asking more questions than it actually answers.
Okay. It's certainly intriguing, though, from the looks of things. I mean, it looks so atmospheric, and I do want to know kind of what's going on and why in the trailer people are kind of marching in step and they look almost brainwashed and stuff.
Yes.
But how does it play out then in terms of the gameplay? Is it as puzzle heavy as Limbo?
Yes.
Are they similar in the way they're articulated?
Incredibly similar, yeah. So you'll, just like Limbo, you're quite a vulnerable being. Like, you're just a kid, and so you have to be smart about how you use your environment, whether that's certain stealth sections where there are, spotlights or dog patrols or whatever that you have to stay out of sight while navigating the environment, or there are certain things that are introduced later in the game. If you remember the little maggoty bug thing that happened, that you had in Limbo, where it sort of it played with how you controlled the game.
Yeah.
It sort of inverted your expectations on that. There are similar controls here, and yeah, it's quite clever, actually, that these things are gradually introduced, and so it actually gets really hard towards the end. Like, the puzzles are they're definitely challenging, but never like exasperatingly so. The one thing that I would say that I felt missing from this, compared to Limbo, was obviously Limbo, the spider was kind of the star of the show, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing in Insight that kind of really fills that void, I suppose. There are some really quite nasty enemies aside from soldiers, but they're never quite, like, I don't know, the spider it was so unique in that it was like this recurring enemy. It was like this just giant force of nature, I guess, that
Yeah, fantastic.
yeah, and so it really felt like a payoff when you actually tore all its legs off. There's not really a comparable experience to that in Insight, but there are other things that are just really cool. Like, it plays with gravity quite a lot.
Oh, interesting.
And so,
okay.
yeah, like, it gets really sort of sci-fi towards the end. I hope that's not a spoiler, but it just goes in a direction that I never expected to go in, basically. But there are some lovely little moments as well. Like, I guess it's a little bit like Schindler's List in that there are certain tiny splashes of color that are sort of obviously supposed to draw your attention, and
Right.
like the first time that happens is you're going through a farm that has been abandoned. It's horrible. Like they're dead animals all over the place, and then as you go along, these tiny little yellow chicks start following you.
Oh.
And obviously that's the tiny. It's like they're vulnerable tiny little things, and you're like, I can't protect them, but they're following you, and you're just like, it's heartbreaking. But then it's these tiny little yellow dots in the darkness, I guess, that kind of just help to keep you going.
I think they certainly know how to make an atmospheric game. Though, talking of, deadly things, I think a lot of the atmosphere of Limbo was informed by how deadly it was. You had, it was almost dreamlike, but then whenever you died, if you were impaled on a spike or by the spider or whatever, then the sudden quiet and combined with the violence of your death, it was weirdly poignant in a way that, stuck certainly with me for much of the game. Is Inside as deadly? Like, do those moments work as well?
I guess it's similar in that, yes, there are certain really violent ways that you can meet your end, but it's more horrific and less kind of poignant, really, in that, obviously I think the poignancy in Limbo came from, you saw this tiny little corpse laid to rest, where probably nobody would ever find it. Whereas in Inside, sometimes it can be, you're strangled by a soldier, or
Oh, wow.
yeah, or you're torn apart by dogs or something really horribly violent, but there's something very oppressive about it as well. So it's definitely affecting, but in a different way, I'd say.
All right, well, yeah, thanks for talking to us about Inside. It sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest.
I wouldn't say it's fun exactly. It's definitely interesting. I think if you got a lot out of Limbo, the experience of playing Limbo, then it will be something that you enjoy, I guess. It's not. It's certainly not a gaming experience that you'd want to have every day, but it's story-wise, I'm glad that it exists, and I think that there will be a lot of people poring over various theories about what's actually going on. So I'll look forward to reading those.
Well, it certainly piqued my interest, and if it's piqued your interest, you can like and subscribe for plenty more Eurogamer videos. And there should be some other videos on screen right now for you to check out if you'd like. In the meantime, thanks very much, Aoife. That was fun.
Yay!